10 years ago, on the night of October 31st, a small Midwestern town fell victim to an escaped killer. Under the cover of darkness, he carried out the most horrifying mass murder on record. 16 people in cold blood. Ever since that night, no one has forgotten his name.
And Halloween has never been the same.
Hello, listeners past, present, and future. This is the Haddonfield Radio Trailer Park, where we take you moment by moment and frame by frame through the trailers that make us want to go to the movies. We are your hosts. I'm Christian White.
And I'm Joe Francazio.
And today we're doing another one of our Halloween franchise trailer episodes. And I have to say, of all of them, I think this is the one I was looking forward to the most, because today we are doing our Cult of Thorn Trilogy trailer episode. Joe, why don't you tell them exactly which Halloween films we're going to be covering today?
Sure, we're going to cover Halloween 4, 5, and 6. Oh, let me give them the full titles.
Yeah,
Halloween,
go for it.
Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. And then just Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Or Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, if you're watching the producer's cut.
Sure.
Right.
And then if you want to go further, later on we're going to talk about a trailer that came out for the movie with the original title, Halloween 6, The Origin of Michael Myers.
Wait, there's a trailer for that?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so
really
you do. I was
weird.
gonna say you have a sweet spot for this trilogy, don't you? You love the Thorn trilogy.
Well, I if you go back to our Haddonfield Radio episode 4, I think when we originally covered the return of Michael Myers in our main series, I talked about how that while Halloween 2 was the first time I ever saw Michael Myers when I was a kid watching WLVI TV 56 in Boston.
A historic moment.
Halloween 4 is the first one I saw in the movie theater.
Right.
Saw that at the Dedham Showcase Cinemas here in Massachusetts. Well, we're in Rhode Island right now recording this, but in Massachusetts where I grew up.
Yeah.
And in Dedham Cinemas was always the most like rowdy movie theater.
How did you get in? It was rated R, right?
Yeah, I have to assume that either they just sold us the tickets, because I don't remember,
Yeah,
or my mom bought us the tickets. No, this was R.
R, right? Yeah.
You know, a lot of my mom used to take me to a
questioning
lot of horror movies, and she would ask like the ticket taker, "Is there any nudity in this?" And there could be all the gore all day long.
Yeah.
But if there was any boobs,
Yeah.
I was not allowed
That's
to
it.
see it. No boobs. But you know, people being eviscerated, no problem. No problem.
Mm-hmm.
But at that what was that? 1988.
1988.
So I would have been 13 years old, and I
Yeah.
remember seeing it with my friend Larry DeGiusto, our friend, the late Larry DeGiusto Jr. And I used to drag him to all the horror movies, and
I'm sorry, but if you knew Larry,
Yeah.
he probably looked like he was 8 years old. I don't know how you guys got in. This is
yeah,
crazy.
he looked much younger than I
Anyway,
did, and I looked young.
anyway.
But I would assume that either my mother or my father bought the tickets.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I know that we went alone because I remember or at Dedham it was like all bets are off. They probably just gave us the tickets. But I remember when we got there,
Yeah.
there was one of the 2 times where the line for the movie was outside the building. Mm-hmm. And we went and we saw it, and of course loved it. And that was one of the preeminent moments in my life as a horror fan that really I have in this like beautifully enshrined box in my brain of one of my favorite horror memories.
Well, this was a big deal. So there was big lines everywhere because now this was, the franchise was sort of restarting here, right? Because after Halloween,
reorienting itself back to Michael Myers.
it was after Halloween 3 came out and there was no Michael Myers and people were disappointed by that. And in between now Halloween 3 and 4, we have Mustafa Akkad has gone and bought all the rights back himself because he knows I have to sort of re-steer this ship in the right direction, and our moneymaker here is Michael Myers. And this is where he starts to come up with the new sort of Bible that everyone goes by for a long time in terms of how you deal with Michael and what can be done to him. And yeah, so Halloween 4 was a return to form, we could say, directed by Dwight Little, and who did a great job. 4 is, I think, within the Halloween franchise, there are a lot of people that have this right up there as their number one.
Well, the other thing is, this is a very, very interesting point in the franchise's history, because this is also where the original team that was shepherding the Halloween franchise departed.
Right.
And that was, of course, John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, and even Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yep, yep.
And so, like you were just saying, Mustafa Akkad, this is where he sort of turns the Halloween franchise into really his family business and his family legacy, and becomes the main shepherd, for lack of a better word, of the franchise, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And it's a whole kind of new start in many ways, even though it is the Michael Myers we know from Halloween 1 and 2.
But, and like I like to point out in our episode where we talk about the movie, we cover the movie, they were very smart in using Donald Pleasance as this anchor.
That's the perfect word for it.
That keeps you, tied to the original when so many other people and characters have moved on.
And also, it's the introduction of what I would consider, by far and away, one of the most iconic characters in the entire 13-film franchise. And when I say 13 films, we're recording this for our listeners in the future. We're recording this in 2023, where as of right now, there have been 13 films. Mm-hmm. And one of the most iconic characters to ever be in one of the Halloween films, of course, Jamie Lloyd, played so beautifully by the great Danielle Harris. Yeah,
there are a lot of quote-unquote iconic moments from this movie that stick out. It doesn't maybe have the same magic as the original, but in its own right, it in terms of restarting things again with Michael Myers, like that shot of him sitting up by the bed that you see in the trailer,
iconic,
of course,
iconic.
And you've got some amazing Donald Pleasance monologues and lines. There's some very classic stuff, and they really went out of their way to try and make Haddonfield much more rural.
Right.
And
I think this film really has that Halloween vibe, and I don't mean like Halloween the movie. I mean like Halloween the season, the spooky season, the holiday.
Yeah.
The way this film begins with this montage of sort of Americana kind of imagery that is very autumnal, I think it really gets you into the mood. And I think this film is a really just a classic 80s horror film, a classic 80s slasher film. I think it's very like bare bones in some respects, but I mean that in even a positive way. Mm-hmm. It dispels with some mythology. It brings some new mythology on in, and the Cult of Thorn sort of becomes like this new start, or the Cult of Thorn trilogy, for this new mythology that, again, for better or for worse, kind of moves through the DNA of the rest of the films.
Even though, I mean, this definitely is part of the Cult of Thorn trilogy, there's not a ton of Thorn reference at all in Part 4 yet. It's just
it was almost like that stuff was back engineered.
It was. Well, and it's just that the same characters carry over to 5, so it's all sort of part of the same story.
Right.
But
it's not like they were making Halloween 4 with the notion of this is the beginning of the Cult of Thorn trilogy. Yeah. That sort of informally, as all fans know, kind of came once the next 3 films were
when
made.
You see the tattoo in Part 5 when he's unconscious. But so in terms of the trailer, I do wonder for the marketing, how much until people saw the trailer, until the trailer came out, was there a lot of talk of a new Halloween movie with Michael Myers and returning? Did you get the Fangorias?
I would think it was just
did all those things already kind of give it away?
Yeah, that would have been the only place you would have known that. I mean, it's really interesting in a relative sense to look back in time and think about 1988 or even 1987, ostensibly when this movie would have been promoted.
Right.
And no internet. And it's amazing to think how you even marketed any movies back then, how you did anything without the internet.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point in the 80s, trailers were kind of cookie cutter in what they were doing for a long time. And the 80s were all about spectacle, big things, and action.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
you can see in this trailer that they try to include all that there is for a movie like this, like the big explosion at the gas station,
right? And
you're getting a lot of the action scenes, like the quick cuts, so it looks like it's constantly moving and there's a ton going on. I'm not saying there isn't, but that's what they're focusing on.
And in this movie, you get one of my favorite images of Michael Myers, which is the bandage-faced Michael
Right,
Myers,
yep.
which I really love.
And so at this point again in the 80s, there was a like I said, it was very cookie cutter. There was a formula, and it was sort of that they were all following, and you can sort of see it really play out in almost all three of these trailers. And it kind of went like this: they give you the exposition, they show you the conflict, and then they end you on a cliffhanger where that makes you want to go to the movie because you don't quite know who's going to make it or not,
It's almost like where the franchise started to get this almost episodic feel, and started to lay that groundwork. But if you really think about it, once they made Halloween 2, Halloween 1 and 2 feel like counterpoints to each other, just in the same way as Halloween 4, 5, and 6. And as we start to move and progress through the Halloween franchise, of course, what you start to see is this way of breaking down the movies via timeline.
Yeah.
And so that becomes one of the most unique aspects of the Halloween franchise. But if you look at our playlist, even on our YouTube channel, you'll notice we have a Cult of Thorn playlist because in its own way, even though it's still included in Timeline 1, the funny thing is you can look at this as its own 3-film story. Now, before we continue on, let's cover all 3. What do you think about Halloween 5?
The movie,
let's just talk a little about all 3 films.
I pretty much like these movies in order in terms of, if I had to rank just these 3, I love 4 and then 5 and 6.
Right.
And so 5, for me, it's the parts that I don't like is a lot of the directing. I'm not a fan of the director, Dominique Othen and Gerard.
Yep.
Right. Or at least his work on this movie, some of the choices. And, The Mask is definitely not my favorite at all.
Got it.
And, but, I enjoy it because it sort of just continues the story of 4. We have Danielle Harris back.
And again, just in brilliant acting, especially since I would say like 75-80% of the film, she's mute.
Donald Pleasance and some of his creepier,
my God,
work in this movie.
He's so creepy in this movie.
And so it's got some great 80s kills, makeup. And
here we are, right on the cusp of the 90s with Halloween 5, which was a completely different decade for horror, as all horror fans know from the 80s. But go ahead.
It's interesting that these movies also, a lot of times movies will have multiple trailers. There's maybe a teaser and then a trailer, or trailer number 1 and trailer number 2, slightly different. These movies pretty much all have just one trailer.
I think that is a lot to do, like we were talking about a few minutes ago, with the time.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't, the only avenue you had for trailers was before the movie at the movie theater.
So I know in some of our earlier episodes of the Trailer Park, something I keep trying to do more and more research and put a bigger picture together of the puzzle is the idea of how these trailers get made, who's behind them, who's making the decisions, does the director have any sort of input? And I actually recently got to ask Rick Rosenthal, director of Halloween 2, during one of his live streams on Instagram. And I just said, hey, as the director of H2, did you have any input at all on the trailer? And point blank, he just said, nope, nothing.
Which is just fundamentally sort of shocking to me.
The distribution company, especially back then, would have been handled all that type of marketing for a movie. And they have on-hand distribution companies would have their own editors and guys who put trailers together. That's their job. And
but you would think the director of the film would have some say in the way the film's being presented to an audience.
That's what I kind of want to keep pecking away at that and find out if there's ever a point where there's a final say type of thing where it goes by the director. They say, here's the trailer, and like what if they're giving away something major that the director does not want given away in a trailer or something like that. You know what I mean? And so I am curious about that. But also at this time, now we're getting to the late 80s where the making of trailers, it's starting to become an art form. It's starting to become its own thing. There's been a lot of experimentation, a lot of different ways to do it. There's been different agency sort of governing them for the motion picture associations and all that. But now, besides the distribution companies whose job it is to make the trailers, there's also, when you're watching the credits, you'll see a lot of times with editors and stuff, it'll say and associates.
Yes. Right.
So now they're starting to these people are starting to pop up in this world
as part of the marketing.
Well, as people you hire to do specifically, like there's so and so and associates, and they're known for the trailers.
You know what I mean? Right. I gotcha.
So, and like there was a great example I was reading about that was not too long, probably after Halloween 6, late 90s. 2000 or so, where for the Social Network, there was the Facebook movie.
The Social, David Fincher's
right?
The Social Network.
So and that was a case where its early trailer, they hired these associates, this editor and his associate company, and to do this trailer, and they were only given 20 minutes of the film to work with, which was barely anything.
Right. Okay.
And so they are the ones, when you watch the trailer, it's in the almost more than half of it is just shots of like a computer screen of different close-ups of like Facebook. So it was their idea, and up to them to actually shoot.
And that's probably what happens a lot.
But isn't that amazing? Like, here's people who really have
they don't even know the context of what they're cutting.
They're not part of the movie.
Yeah.
And they get to make this, impactful. But that's their job. That's why these people are popping up and they're getting hired. Because they're so good at making a trailer that's effective, even though they're not the people. But I am still very curious if at some point,
if anybody
a director
out there
has any say,
like if anybody listening to this has information about these trailers, like about the creators of these trailers, we would love to know that. And that brings to a good point. We have this comment section at the bottom of every one of these videos. If there's something out there that you could share that would illuminate this to us, please do. Let us know. I know a lot of people who listen to these episodes are hardcore fans. So if you guys know something we don't, we love to collect information about these movies. So just let us know in the comment section. But
especially about it's sort of the workflow. I want to just know I get that other people make it, but like, does it ever get run by the directors, or the writers, producers, somebody who
it doesn't, that would shock me.
I know, right? And it sounds like it doesn't. Maybe I need to just leave it alone. Maybe I'm getting my answer. I keep hearing no, the director doesn't.
Well, strangely enough, before we started recording this, Joe and I were talking about the fact that of all the Halloween franchise, of course, is so huge with its fans that you would think every single nook and cranny of the franchise has been researched and posted online. But yet, go ahead and look online and see if you can find any information about the making of any of these trailers. There's really nothing out there.
It's
I
hard.
really search. And maybe I missed it, and I'm willing to accept that I could have missed something, but I really search.
Oh, I do too. I just think it's one of those things where there's just some couple people in an office and there's not as much of a hullabaloo happening about it.
I think you're absolutely right.
It's not being documented and asked about. But, the Halloween 4 trailer, the beginning of it starts with the classic narration by the Inner World guy, the Don LaFontaine that we talked about earlier, right?
Right.
And it's hitting all the marks of the classic 80s trailer. Now, I will also say that I think the beginning, at least with that beautiful scroll, right? It probably, if you had no idea that they were making a new Halloween with Michael Myers, it probably doesn't hit you till you kind of get to the end of it. But it reminds me of the beginning of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, which has this iconic scroll. And you know who actually narrated that was Don Larroquette.
John
Larroquette, from Night Court.
Yep.
And he did that, and I think he even carried through to some of the other sequels in the trailers and the marketing, doing this. If you've ever seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, or even the trailers, it has that scroll, like almost like Star Wars, about the Sally Hardesty and all this.
I thought it was in the trailers too, and I started looking for it to see if I'm like, because in my head every time
for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
there wasn't any trailers. It's only in the opening of the movie.
Oh, okay, okay. Because even the 2022 one, that was a Netflix movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
John Larroquette
Does it? Yes.
Does it there too.
And so I don't know, but to me, I have no idea if they were attempting to pull on that string at all or not. Again, it seems it's just a random person making these trailers, but to me, it always pops in my head when I see it.
Me too. And you know what that does at the beginning of those Texas Chainsaw movies is it sets you in the reality. It gives your brain this anchor of reality to set into. Like, even though these events obviously did not really happen like this, it's given you that almost like that Blair Witch dis-reality that you sort of can connect to in go along with for the fun of it. It definitely sets the tone and sets the mood. So to see it in this trailer, I would almost guarantee you it's inspired from that. I mean, it just seems to be that would be the case.
I think so.
Now, I wanted to say quickly, we were talking about Halloween 5 just generally. Going back and watching Halloween 5 again for our main series, Haddonfield Radio, and if you're interested, episode 5 of Haddonfield Radio, of course, is where we cover Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. But when I went back through it this last year for our YouTube show, I feel like the movie's really grown on me, and has really kind of... I like the vibe of it, and I get like a nostalgic feel. And I know during some of the earlier episodes of our show, we would talk about how nostalgia can really play on your susceptibility to whether or not you love a movie.
Right.
And in the case of Halloween 4, 5, and 6, I have to admit, I get it hits my nostalgia button, like it punches my nostalgia buttons.
Yeah.
So of course that could be at play. But when it comes to 5, even when it comes to 6, which I would feel, like you said, is my least favorite of the 3 films in the Cult of Thorn trilogy, I still get that nostalgia from it.
Yeah. Oh, I love them. It's nitpicky stuff. Like, the house, the mask, the little,
there's problems.
Some
Halloween
creative
5,
choices that
they don't even use they don't even use the Myers house.
Right,
like, it doesn't even look like the Myers house. Or the mask. So you're right.
But there's some great... I mean, I love them. It's, to me, sometimes there's certain trilogies that it's hard for me to almost think of them as separate movies, and this is one of those,
This almost feels like one
go
movie
together.
broke into 3 pieces. It really does.
Yeah.
Even though, like we said, it wasn't intended to be that. That's like almost retroactively.
No, and unfortunately, that is one of the downfalls of this particular trilogy, is that, they had some amazing success with 4, and then they started rushing. That's 100% true. And then to get 5 out, and I think that's, kind of evident, unfortunately, in how it came out a little bit at times. But, it's a classic story.
I wanted to, going back to Halloween 4, I wanted to bring something up, something that I was reading about that always sort of fascinates me. I love reading about, in between each of the Halloween movies, all the aborted sequels.
Oh, right.
That were always developed and scrapped or developed or thought about or considered. And one of them for Halloween 4 that's always stuck in my head. There's this guy named Dennis Etchison, and you see his name pop up in a lot of the Halloween franchise lore because he did some of the novelizations, okay?
Okay.
And Mustafa Akkad had asked him to come up with an idea for Halloween 4 originally, and he came up with this idea about like Tommy Doyle and Lindsay Wallace were sort of the central characters, and then Michael Myers was a ghostly presence. And he would sort of grow based on people's fear. Like the more fear that his presence created, the more, I don't know if it was that he would become more in reality or he would literally grow. And I know there's a lot of these different ideas, like one where Michael Myers is like in a football game and he's like 15 feet tall. I don't know if that's from that same idea, that was the climax. But this idea of Michael Myers as a ghostly presence, I think really shows up actually in Halloween 4. That if you look at the way Michael's presented in Halloween 4, he's this very spectral presence. He's in reflections a lot. There's a lot of dreams. There's a lot of moments where, as an audience member, you're not sure, is this really happening? Is this in Jamie Lloyd's mind? Is there some sort of link between them? So I think that idea of Michael as a ghostly presence in the development of Halloween 4 kind of steeped into the DNA of the actual film.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I just think that's really neat. Dennis Etchison, really fascinating guy, and back in the day where novelizations were really the only place you could get kind of supporting material for the movies back before the internet again. You would get the novelization, which was usually based directly on the script. And so there was usually a lot of things in the novelizations that weren't in the film. And so that was like this place you could get this supplemental material. So it's kind of neat. But anyway.
No, I agree. Totally. I think maybe we should watch it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start getting into these.
The trailer for Halloween 4, and then we'll talk about that in 5.
And just if you haven't watched a Trailer Park episode before, although Joe and I usually do these fan commentaries where we talk through the movie, we're not going to be talking through the trailer. We're just going to all watch the trailer together, and then we'll talk about it when we're done. Right?
Yeah.
All right,
exactly.
so let's jump into it. This is the
That's
trailer for 1988's Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
"10 years ago, on the night of October 31st, a small Midwestern town fell victim to an escaped killer. Under the cover of darkness, he carried out the most horrifying mass murder on record. 16 people in cold blood. Ever since that night, no one has forgotten his name. And Halloween has never been the same." Now, Michael Myers has come home. He has returned for one more night of unholy terror.
Michael! Somebody help me! He's here to kill that little girl and anybody who gets in his way.
Oh, God.
Who's gonna be next?
Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
Maybe nobody knows how to stop him.
And here we are, we're back again. That was the Halloween 4 Return of Michael Myers trailer. And 100% that opening narration is clearly influenced by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it works really, really well.
It does. And I think it's awesome or interesting in the beginning, too, how they kind of give you the well, it's Jamie putting the mask on, but with the narration, you feel like you're seeing Michael almost from the original film, you know.
Right.
But it's so they're giving away the ending, but with no context, the audience has no idea, but it's an interesting choice, you know, to show that right away.
I was really paying attention when I was watching that to the presentation of the visuals, this audio, in the narration, and what's pushed up front. And you got two things: Michael Myers and the music.
Yeah.
Right up front. And it's like the film is being sold on these two things: that Michael Myers is back, and here's the original music that everybody at that point, it was like already iconic, everybody knew it.
Yeah, they probably didn't have the soundtrack done yet, so they're going to use the original, and if they have the rights to it, they're going to use it because it's, you know,
it just
hook
immediately hooks you in.
Yeah, you're in totally. You got Donald Pleasance. You're ending on a great. There's the cliffhanger. Maybe nobody knows how to stop it.
Right.
Are they going to get him? Is there going to be another? Oh my God! Is he unstoppable? You know.
What was that? Probably 30 seconds. That
it was
trailer?
a minute and a half.
That was a minute and a half. Wow, that just flies.
Well, think about, you have a whole little narration in the beginning,
true.
eating up a little time.
That's true. That narration is so prototypically Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even the tone of the voice.
Yeah, and it's that guy. Again, it's also very just 80s. It's very classic 80s
might even be
trailer.
70s, like that vibe of it. But I gotta say, like, it immediately hooks me. And let me just put this out there. When we're watching these trailers and recording the episodes of Trailer Park, I try to look at the trailer and clear my mind and watch the trailer like I'm sitting in a movie theater in 1987, and this is the first look you're getting at this film. Like, you don't know everything we know about the franchise in 2023.
Right.
And that made my hair on my arms stick up.
People were probably freaking out in the theater when that first came
you'd be
out.
cheering. If you're a horror
I mean,
fan,
and especially after the disappointment of 3, you know, or I shouldn't say disappointed, but I know people were disappointed.
in the relative sense
Yeah.
of the time period.
Yes,
people
back
were.
then they were. To this, I mean, think about it. You know, we're going back. We're getting Michael. They didn't know that. For all they knew, after 3, the franchise was either
That was
dead,
it, yeah.
or they're going to just do something else still.
Or if you only
But-
had those 3 movies, and by the end of 2, and then you have 3, you think Michael's dead.
And to already with the trailer, they set you up for it to be okay that it's been 10 years and he's not really dead. He's been asleep, and they show him bandage and they show him like so you
the
get
other
it.
interesting thing to me is that they very well for 4 could have literally just retroactively just started a brand new mythology going forward.
Yeah.
But instead, they do tie you back to the first 2 movies. This film is absolutely 100% a sequel as well to parts 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that it sort of really brilliantly sort of walks the line in its marketing between appealing to the people who loved the first 2 movies in that camp 100%, and in bringing in new fans and new people who are, even if you haven't seen the first 2 movies. And I think the finished film does a really, really good job of walking that line. If you never saw the first 2, you could have gone in 1988 and saw part 4 and got into the franchise from there, and then gone back and seen the first 2. Or if you were someone who was obsessed with the first 2 movies, or even the first 3, you could go into part 4 as a continuation of what you love. And I think the marketing itself in that trailer really also captures that.
Yeah, they knew, just like they had to do it in the movie, that they had to bring any new audience members up to speed somehow quickly. And they do it with the intro narration here, with the scroll, and in the movie it's with like the prison guard, where they kind of basically tell you, hey, this guy killed a whole lot of people years ago, and he's been in a coma ever since.
Oh, in the actual film,
and in the scroll here, it's like it's a job of part 4, whether it's the marketing or the movie. They know that they have to.
They got to put that exposition.
They have to give you get them up to speed just a bit, just enough. Just know that he was a guy who killed a bunch of people. If you didn't see the originals or you weren't hooked on it, and they kind of give you that one way or the other, and then you can just watch these, new.
That's sort of the economy of Michael Myers, is that if you portray Michael Myers correctly, you don't need a tremendous amount of exposition to get people up to speed as to what he is, what his motivations are, how he operates. He's created and designed in such a brilliant way in cinema history that really all you got to do is, if you know anything about horror at all and you see Michael Myers, you're sort of up to speed.
Yeah.
But what that trailer does, and certainly what part 4 does as an entire film, like I was saying a minute ago, is it really does this excellent job of transitioning Michael into kind of a new storyline without cutting loose what worked originally.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you got Donald Pleasance,
right?
Still, having that hallmark trait of these movies of him describing Michael and the evil and how he's unstoppable and the whole thing. It sucks everybody back in,
Well, Donald Pleasance is one of those incredibly talented actors that makes something look very easy, and that is delivering exposition to the audience in a way that does not feel like you're being lectured to, like you're being taught something. He's such a brilliant actor that he can take intrinsically important plot details and plot information that moves the storyline forward. He can deliver that to an audience in a way that just feels, fundamentally organic because of his expertise in acting and his ability to kind of just hold the screen. But here you have Danielle Harris, again, a kid.
Yeah.
A kid, and she holds the screen like no other. Anyone who listens to Haddonfield Radio knows I just have a tremendous respect for Danielle Harris, and I said during episode 4 of Haddonfield Radio, and I'll say it here again, I still think between Halloween 4 and Halloween 5, I believe Danielle Harris's performance is one of the greatest child acting performances in movie history. That's just my opinion. Maybe some of you agree, maybe some of you don't, but that's my opinion.
Having her be mute in part 5, although a weird choice by the director, I feel, was still, it's hard for a kid, I would imagine, acting without lines or through just
absolutely
the mumbling there she had to do. And And she pulls it off,
The thing that really strikes me about Danielle Harris in part 4 and part 5 is she has this innate ability to sort of transmit fear to an audience. Like, and you think even for an established actor, that someone that's been acting for decades, to transmit emotion from your face is very, very difficult. And Danielle Harris she's so in the moment in these films.
I'm not saying this as a joke, but I think also having Donald Pleasance in your face screaming. I'm not trying to be funny.
It is funny, but it's true.
But I mean, he was so intense and kind of over the top in that, especially in that movie, that it must have been easy to feel, kind of uncomfortable.
I mean, in part 5, he's frightening.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And he's
he could have literally been frightening her.
In part 5, his character is literally re-traumatizing a child. And using a child as bait.
They knew each other from from part 4, so I'm sure she wasn't very scared of him.
No,
but in terms of an acting thing, when you have Donald Pleasance as the person you're bouncing off of, even as a child, it must have been. Well,
and he had a tremendous
intense
respect for Danielle Harris.
Oh yeah, he gave her the trailers, that story, and the whole thing. I mean, he obviously she wasn't scared of him, but in general. No. But maybe in the moment during the scenes, I mean, come on.
Well, I just think the thing about Part 4 also is when you rewatch it now with looking back and knowing where the franchise has gone, I mean, I really think Part 4 really was the point where the Halloween franchise got on a separate track that really did carry on up until Halloween Ends. And yet, I think overall, I know it has its detractors and it has its people who absolutely love it, but I think it's a very, very, very worthy sequel. I think it's one of the best sequels in the entire franchise.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one of the best horror sequels ever made. And I think Dwight Little's directing in Halloween 4 is, you don't hear about it in the conversation as much, but I think he does some really interesting things in also just letting the story be exactly what it should be and not, like what Dominique Authen and Gerard kind of, I think, overdoes is he sort of over-directs Part 5 and tries to bring too much of his own artistic personality into the proceedings.
Yeah.
Where 4, what it really is a very austere and a very straightforward depiction of the story of Michael Myers. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean that positively. So I think you get that right in the trailer. And the trailer certainly hits you with some of the iconic shots. Him Michael Myers sitting up in Jamie's bedroom.
And she opens the door.
And he's got the knife up over his head
low profile
that you always see. Yeah.
So and now leading up to the trailer for 5, I think it's interesting. There's I think a big contrast. Now when you go into 5, you'll notice that they don't give you. There's one shot in the beginning where you see the mask clearly, and then all the rest of the trailer, it's very shadowy or quick or not really there. I feel like they're deliberately
obscuring the
mask. And I mean, we all know it's definitely one of the lesser liked masks out of the whole franchise. It's definitely a little weird. And I feel like they knew that or something,
And I just want to say, when we pick on anything from these movies, we do it from a place of love.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody that listens to Haddonfield Radio or the Trailer Park series knows that we adore these movies. And the great Greg Nicotero not only designed this mask for Halloween 5, but actually it was partially designed around Greg Nicotero's own face.
Yeah.
And so we have tremendous respect for his artistry and him as a person. And we're only just trying to be honestly, objectively, constructively critical.
It wouldn't have been so off-putting if it just wasn't, story-wise, it's supposed to be the same mask for Part 4.
That's what stands out.
Right. You can't, you're wondering what the heck happened, that's all. Anyway.
That point you just made is the exact distillation of, I think, what is off-putting about it. It's not necessarily that the mask isn't well made or well designed. It's that it doesn't make sense that the mask would change in the 1 year that Michael Myers is an invalid with either the old man or Dr. Death, depending on what version of the movie you're talking about in Halloween 5.
But the trailer, I think And again, like we've talked about, it's not made by the filmmakers, so
Right.
You can't put any blame on them, really, I guess. But it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty.
And when you brought up that point
you
about
know.
David Fincher's The Social Network, where that marketing team only had 20 minutes of the film to edit a trailer from, well, it makes you wonder, is that a standard process? Do the people like cutting the Halloween 5 trailer, do they even know what the movie is?
So I think the Halloween 5 trailer is pretty bland in a way because it's only a year, between the movies.
Right,
So it had to
right.
have been made quick turnaround. Again, there's probably not a lot of footage, that they know or can work with. The sound effects, I have to say, it's kind of goofy when they show him pulling the mask off in the trailer.
Okay.
And it's not like this in the movie, but in the trailer, there is a real over-the-top, loud, like, Velcro sound, like a sound effect, like right off a sound effect CD or something.
Well, what's strange is that original mask, I believe, had actual Velcro on it.
Yeah.
On Don Shank's head.
To me it seems added and like because it's so over the top, but maybe it is the original sound. I also think it's interesting that they really part of the voiceover is kind of playing the movie like there's a big part of it is that in this movie they say he's unmasked, and they show him pulling the mask off right before he goes up to Jamie. But like, yes, he wears the brute mask, he wears other masks. But it's not like he really walks around,
Why don't you explain the brute mask, that reference you just brought up?
It's the other mask he wears when he's in the car picking up Tina, and it's the one her boyfriend had that,
It looks to me
Michael
like
kills.
this L.A. law actor named Harry Hamlin.
It's like a gray, salt and pepper haired, frizzy haired, big,
Really,
muscly
the
face
only
guy.
time outside of the very beginning of 1978 Halloween where Michael Myers wears a completely different mask.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure.
And that mask was manufactured by a West German company, and I'm blanking on the name, Rudel.
Okay.
And the mask itself was called the Brute.
Yep.
If you put that in quotes. That was just the name of that particular mask they were manufacturing. So it is very interesting to see Michael wearing a separate mask.
Yeah.
So that was that reference. Just in
And
case.
so I wonder if it's one of those cases of, again, the people cutting the trailer don't really know the story and everything that happens, and they're trying to piece something together based on the shots that they're getting, and they get the shot of Michael taking his mask off, and you know what I mean? So,
right.
Because I feel like it's weird that they kind of put that up front as sort of a selling point when he's not really unmasked.
You know what I think, though? I think if you're looking for an original... Okay, here we are. We're at this point less than a year between movies at the point of the
quick.
marketing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's a shocking turnaround. It's obviously too quick.
The trailer must only have come out a matter of months after
would have
Thor
to, I
has
would agree.
died down.
So what I'm thinking is, if you're looking for a hook to now sell the fifth film, which in many instances is obviously a continuation of the fourth film, and the fourth film is still so fresh in people's minds, I would say the idea that you're going to see Michael Myers without his mask. In that time period of the franchise, that must have been a very enticing concept.
Unless they were trying to do a little bait and switch on people, like, hey, let's play it up like that. We'll get him in there because we don't know. The movie.
I mean, you do see him unmasked.
You do, but I don't know. I don't know if they should be putting that up there in
making
the
that
trailer.
the central selling point.
It's not the central, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Anyway, we'll watch this trailer for part 5 from 1989, and we will come back and talk about that and start getting ready for the trailer for part 6. Right?
All right, let's do it.
Help me, no!
We both know he's alive. But you know where he is.
Halloween 5. This time, they're ready. This time, he's unmasked. And this time, he's back with a vengeance. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers.
Oh my god. I was literally slack-jawed at the sound of the Velcro as he's pulling the mask off.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It is absolutely ADR'd in after the fact, and it's ridiculous.
It's kind of weird how long of a shot. I feel like they just didn't have a lot to work with when they cut this trailer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the way they hold on some shots, but then it's also weird how quick they'll cut away from Michael constantly in the quick shots.
Well, when you think of it in relation to the trailer we just watched for Part 4, it's just night and day.
Yeah.
In terms of the presentation of the characters, the presentation of Loomis,
Yeah.
the presentation of Michael especially. Talk about being short-shrived.
Yeah, it was a quick, in and out.
But when you think about the marketing of something, what is that subconsciously or subliminally telling an audience? It's almost like telling the audience, like you were saying, I don't know how to read that trailer.
Now you got to remember too. So Halloween 4, also ends on that big cliffhanger with Jamie stabbing the mom, we think probably killing her.
Oh, you
right?
think Jamie's going to be the new Michael Myers?
They're showing you in here. Again, they put her, within the clown outfit, and then they show that. They use a big piece of the poster art, which literally has her standing there with a knife, in the clown suit.
And I actually liked that part of the trailer. I like how the poster art drops in over the title.
So you would really probably go into this thinking we are going to pick up on that storyline and that she is.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that is the way that this movie should have been fully marketed.
Of course.
Is the idea. Anyone who knows Halloween 4 knows, and we talk about this in episode 4 of Haddonfield Radio, it is one of the greatest horror movie endings of all time. It's one of the greatest, it's not necessarily a twist, but it's one of the greatest sort of cliffhanger reveals that you're left with the notion that this innocent child has been so corrupted, now contains the evil essence of Michael Myers, has her birthright as the niece of Michael Myers has come to fruition. She's now a masked killer like her uncle. And going into Part 5, I guarantee a great portion of the audience, fans, old fans and new fans, were probably expecting that to be the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, of course, that's not exactly what you get.
No. Again, it's not a bad movie,
No,
but it's
no.
it wasn't where I think anyone thought it was going to go.
Even if you knew as a filmmaker and the people who made Halloween 5, I think I still probably would have marketed the movie that way.
Well, I think they underestimated that's what people were that's what they wanted to see. They wanted to go, if you're going to make a sequel to that movie, to Part 4, you want to see what happens with Jamie.
That's
and
like first and foremost.
In that as the killer or as inheriting this evil, and they kind of just rewind on that a little bit. And
I mean, they carry through these notions of them having this kind of sort of a psychic link, or they sort of hint at this and hint at that she's having these visions in Part 5 that she knows where Michael is, and Loomis is almost using her as like a crystal ball.
Yeah,
and
bait,
which is horrific.
Yeah,
but the notion that you're left with at the end of Halloween 4 is just so profound. It's such a gut punch. That was the term I was looking for a minute ago.
Yep.
It's such a gut punch at the end of Halloween 4 that you're right. Halloween 5 sort of feels like it's spinning its wheels. And the thing about it is, even the trailer to me feels like it's sort of spinning its wheels.
Yeah.
But like you said, that could be very much attributed to the fact that the people making the trailer don't know what the heck is going to happen.
If the people making the movie don't have a clear, concise vision, and then it's going to be hard for I think anybody else to also know, especially early on and given only chunks of the movie. I'm not saying the director didn't have a clear vision, but it seems like
maybe too much vision.
It just wasn't. It wasn't the vision everyone thought was probably going to be made after what Part 4 was.
I would have to say, looking at that trailer with like trying to have fresh eyes, yes, that trailer would absolutely have gotten me into the theater to see Part 5. I don't have a memory of it, but I would guarantee I'm sure I did see Part 5 in the theater.
You want to see what happens.
But does it work? Is it a well-made trailer? I don't know.
It works only in the sense that it lets me know that there is a new product and that there's enough of the things that tells me it's still linked to Part 4 that I will want to go see what happens.
It's still, to me, just like we keep saying, it's just unbelievable to me that they turned Part 5 around in less than a year.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, talk about striking while the iron is hot. I mean, that's... But if anyone who knows anything about the filmmaking process knows that is an unbelievable thing to do.
Well, let's also... I think one criticism of maybe Mustafa Akkad, I would say, is that he didn't have a lot of... I don't think he had a lot of experience with sequel success.
Right. Yeah,
he had some great success in movies, but he never did ones that went to parts 4 or 5, or you know what I mean. And I think it was a little hard for him to figure out. There weren't many
franchises that had 4, 5, 6.
Oh, right, and so it was probably hard to figure out when do you jump on, keep that train rolling on the success you have, or when do you need to take a break, or when do you. Is your product not quite ready? That type of stuff, and so now that leading up to 6, we take a almost 6-year break.
Yeah, here's where you have this. Yeah, exactly.
Because they know
from 89, now we go up to 95.
5 didn't do money wise what they had hoped, or anything like 4. So it was time to regroup a little.
I mean, 4 wasn't exactly a financial barn burner. It made like $20 million.
No, but for the
$5 million budget.
Yeah,
Usually, when you're looking at box office, the general metric is what they call a 3 times multiplier. So if movie costs $5 million, you would need to make $15 million to break even when you include marketing costs, distribution costs. So a film that like Halloween 4 costs $5 million, let's say it makes roughly $20 million. Well, it's profitable. Yeah. But look at the later, look at Halloween 2018. That makes $250 million. So you see what a real box office thing is, like big box office. But in terms of that time period, and in terms of the niche of slasher films and horror films, it was a success.
Big success.
And Halloween 5 goes down a little bit in box office.
Yep.
And so they now take a little bit of time. Now they bring in a brand new distributor.
Yeah, we're at Dimension Films. And they go through a lot of writers trying to make their way up until what we get with ends up on screen.
I mean, the road between 5 and 6 development is like you could make a documentary about it. And there is a book that is literally all about all the sequels that were never made, and I'm totally blanking on it. It's Dennis McNeil is the author, and he wrote an entire book just about unmade Halloween sequels. In the chapters between Halloween 5 and 6 is like half the book, because there was so much, and there's so much lore, and you have people's names like Scott Spiegel, Quentin Tarantino, which is probably not exactly fully.
I think that's urban legend now.
It's probably more urban legend than anything else. But all these different people came in and out of the process trying to come up with ideas. And of course, where they eventually went with Halloween 6 becomes extremely divisive and controversial. There's obviously 2 very different separate versions of the movie. You have the original theatrical cut, which was simply called Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. And then you have years and years later this producer's cut that's released. That's called Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers Producer's Cut. And so when you have something like that happen, clearly in the development and production and post-production of the film, something wasn't going right.
Well, it was the old test marketing at the end, when they were test audiences, rather. This didn't really dig the whole original ending, and so that's where we get the origin of sort of the producer's cut, where the studio comes in and says, okay, we're gonna reshoot a bunch of stuff for the end, but we're bringing in sort of a lot of different people to do it, even a different Michael Myers. They wanted him to be less bulky.
Well, George Wilbur played Michael in Halloween 4, very obviously iconically. And then he reprises his role in Part 6. However, his body type had changed. Fair? Fair enough?
Yeah, he was always a little bulky, whether it was the story of the hockey pads in Part 4.
Oh, that's
you know what I mean?
Yikes.
To just the way he looked in 5. But
that was Don Shanks.
I mean, in 6,
yeah,
sorry.
Right.
And then, the original ending was in the hospital, with Tommy sort of beating Michael with the pipe.
In the green goo coming out of his mask.
And that was all Wilbur.
Yeah.
And then the producers decide to reshoot stuff, and that's when we get Michael A. Lerner, right? Who comes in
and picks up the part
and
of,
so there's
of
a
Michael
kind of
Myers.
a big inconsistency suddenly at the end with this sort of leaner, meaner Michael that starts stomping around with the different quote unquote cult of Thorn ending.
Well, this film really, really leans into the occult side of the Halloween franchise.
Yeah.
I would say there is no film maybe that of the entire franchise that's more leaning into that kind of part of the Halloween franchise's DNA.
So, like I mentioned in the beginning, there was a trailer that came out.
Oh yes, yeah, the origin of Michael Myers.
And so that was the original title. For a while, they were working with a writer, and I can't think of his name right now, before they realized they had to move on. But it went pretty far into production. And he wrote a script called Halloween, like The Origin, or Halloween 6, The Origin. And it was really different. It was going to have, like, Loomis was going to be a patient in the hospital, and because it was just sort of like the process of continually trying to capture Michael and not doing it
had eventually just broken him.
It just broke him.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is kind of a cool conceit.
Yeah, and Michael was going to be having gone off and he living in like unmasked in like shelters and bouncing around amongst the homeless and like a transient. And so some people think that that's a little bit too where Rob Zombie got some of his ideas.
Wow. Even in the David Gordon Green trilogy, there's some elements of that idea, especially in Halloween
Well, and then
Ends.
there's a whole scene though in this version of Origin where it's very much like the Rob Zombie movie, where like at some point a group picks on him and then he pulls out the mask and starts killing.
So wait, was there an actual trailer made for this?
No, not for that story.
Okay.
But obviously what happened was they decided to move on and they end up with Daniel Farrance. But there were some elements of this original script, Halloween 6, The Origin, that they liked, the producers, obviously, because they made sure that they made their way in. A lot of the stuff with Tommy that happens was in this original script, and the idea of what was going on in the town, like how Halloween had been banned, and the kids were trying to get it, put back. And so clearly they liked some things. They made sure
was
that
the name
Daniel...
Phil Rosenberg?
Yes.
And it's funny because there was something about it being called Halloween 666.
Well, so then they're making the movie. Now, this is an interesting thing with trailers. So, it's not uncommon when you're seeing trailers for movies, especially nowadays, where there's all these different versions, or the trailer's made so early that you're getting scenes that are going to be cut out eventually, and or major differences, And this is one where there was a VHS for The Crow that came out, and before it was the trailer
which was also Dimension Films.
Yep, and there was a trailer for this movie, and it was called Halloween 666. Well, it's Halloween 6, but it had three
So
sixes.
it was like an announcement trailer, basically?
No, it
before?
was the same trailer.
Oh, wow.
That's the thing. So it was called Halloween 6 with the 3 sixes, The Origin of Michael Myers. And it's basically the same trailer that would come out shortly after, but with the rebranded title of The Curse of Michael Myers, but it had this original title. So they, I think a case of, obviously this movie had two different directions that it was sort of going in at all times, scenes being filmed to go one way or the other, and they didn't, they changed gears really quick last minute with the title, obviously.
I have to say, I really think that the title of The Origin of Michael Myers, even with the finished Halloween 6 that we have, would have worked, because the idea of what's going on in the plot mechanics of Halloween 6 gives you so much information in terms of this new mythology additions as to Michael's actual origin.
Yeah, it's a huge part of their marketing in this trailer is that, the idea that you're going to learn why. In fact, there's a big shot of Loomis saying, like, I always knew that he was evil, I just never knew why.
Right,
so
right.
The whole thing with this movie is supposedly going to give you this big explanation of, and you're seeing, immediately these images of cults and candles and symbols and you're, so there's also two trailers though for this one.
Okay.
Okay. One that has the old lady.
Oh,
doing
Mrs.
her,
Blankenship? Yeah.
doing her whole bit
Yep.
with scenes from the movie.
Yep.
And then there's the one with the narration, classic sort of narrator in the shots. And again, there's some shots in this trailer that I believe didn't make it into the theatrical cut. We get back in the producer's cut, like Wynn going down the hallway with his arms up, the bright white hallway.
One of my favorite
from behind
shots.
with the hat. Yeah,
God, that shot's
and that's
amazing.
in the trailer.
That's the man in black. He's going down the hallway with his arms up. It's black and white.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what
I love
a shot!
it.
Love that.
And I don't
shot.
think that actually ended up in the theatrical version.
I think that's only in the producer's cut.
But it's in the trailer.
Oh, wow.
So, and I'll put a link in our comments to that version of the trailer where you can see the origins of Michael Myers title. We're not going to play it here because it's literally the same scenes, just a different title
card. Yeah.
But I will put a link to that if you guys want to check it out because it's interesting to see. Because even the narrator is the origin of Michael Myers. It was, I think, a last minute change.
Well, what's interesting, like we were saying in part 5, there's like these hooks that each one of these trailers has.
And the titles. I mean,
Part 4, the hook is Michael Myers is back. Part
The Return.
5, yeah. Part 5, the hook is Michael Myers unmasked. Part 6, the hook is you're going to learn what Michael Myers' story is.
Yeah.
We're going to tell you Michael Myers' story.
Yeah.
And so it's like these interesting kind of hooks that they try to catch the audience with for each one of these.
I wonder if it just didn't play out as nice when you think about the titles, The Return, The Revenge, and then they went The Origin, or The Return, The Revenge, The Curse. It sounds a little more...
I almost wish they had another R word.
Well, right, that would have been...
To really kind of tie the three movies together in a very elegant way. Yeah, there you go. Anything like that.
Anything.
So anyway, why don't we jump right in? We're going to be watching... are we going to watch 2 trailers?
No, we're going to watch the main one.
Okay.
We'll just watch because all the trailers are so similar. It's just either the old lady narration. But I will put a link to the trailer number 2 with the Mrs. Blankenship narration, and I'll also put a link to the version with the other title card, The Origin of Michael Myers. And so right now
he'll pin it to the top of the comment section.
We'll check out 1995's Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, directed by Joe Chappelle.
Let's do it.
Every legend is based on fact. Every myth is grounded in truth. For 17 years, the town of Haddonfield, Illinois, has been haunted by a night when evil roamed the streets and a madman ruled the night. Everyone knows his name. Now, everyone will know the truth.
I knew what he was, but I never knew why.
Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, rated R.
Well, there it is.
See, that sort of feels more like the Halloween 4 trailer in a lot of ways.
Yes.
It has that Don LaFontaine narration that just instantly puts you in that time period of movie trailers.
I mean, and they're doing the big explosions and all the action, and it's they're selling it in that sort of sense.
And again, you're getting this sense of Michael Myers the movie's just sold on, if you love Michael Myers, you're going to love this movie.
Yeah.
You're going to want to come see this movie.
They're kind of trying to kind of put you back in that, the shots of Haddonfield and we're kind of, they're trying to, and they're giving you that piano stomps.
I was going to say,
music.
it's a very...
It's not from the original, but it's...
I wonder if that's specific to this trailer.
I do. It could be a good question.
Because that piece of music there, that incarnation of the John Carpenter theme, it seemed very unique to me in that trailer. Like, my ears don't recall hearing that anywhere else before. So I would really like to know if anybody out there maybe knows, leave it in the comment section. Is that music original to this trailer? trailer for this soundtrack is that music that you hear in this trailer in Halloween 6, because I don't know it on like a molecular basis. So
a lot of these trailers too use a lot of sound design, what they call it, where it's just those other sound effects. Basically, they're the long strings.
Yeah, right.
As things are happening, and or to transition from little pieces of the soundtrack to other stuff. So because usually I would imagine on a lot of films when you're getting these early trailers, the soundtrack isn't necessarily done. It's one of the last things usually done on a film. So that's why you get temp music a lot.
Yeah.
Or if it's a sequel, you'll just get music from one of the other films.
Right, exactly.
I think Halloween 5 was using the theme from 4.
I'm blanking, sadly, on the composer, Alan Howarth.
Yeah, yep.
Alan Howarth, of course, picks up from John Carpenter and begins doing the compositional scores for these films.
Yep.
And does a really admirable job.
Oh, God, yeah, I love this
I
stuff.
love the music that he did.
Yep.
4, 5, 6, I think one of the best things about those 3 movies is the Alan Howarth scores. They're really good. Again, they capture what was great about the original 2 films and all the indelible, iconic themes and leitmotifs that John Carpenter created.
When it kicks in part 4 in the beginning with the ambulance and the rain and all that,
it's just
so
unbelievable.
good.
I mean, that if you're not in the movie theater seat in 1988 and that scene starts and that music kicks off with the lightning and the thunder and all these like horror movie tropes, and you're not in there and you're not loving it, then I don't know what kind of horror fan you are. But we're just talking about the trailers.
Yeah.
Now, would that trailer get you to go see this movie?
Yeah, I think so.
I agree.
It's been a few years. We're kind of picking up anew. We're not hinging on any of the characters from 4 or 5 necessarily. The
funny thing is, by 1995, the Halloween franchise had started to feel a little passé. And horror had taken this kind of meta turn thanks to people like Kevin Williamson, who started making almost like postmodern horror, like the Scream movies.
Yeah.
Where you have Scream, like the original Scream, of course, that Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson created, of course, is a slasher film in its DNA and in its heart, but it is definitely a meta-textual slasher film, obviously. And so horror starts to take on just a very different kind of more mainstream vibe. And I wonder if the Halloween films, connecting all the way back to the 70s, were starting to feel a little bit old hat.
Yeah.
By this point.
And this one, they're kind of trying to tie you into the digital age a little bit.
Right.
You're seeing his face on the computer screen. You're hearing Tommy. You're seeing the wall of the research. It's looking a little more detective-y.
And like Joe and I are both in our late 40s. And if you are around that age or older, or even a little younger, and you remember the video store days, going down to the video store, as I was watching that trailer, what it really made me think of is what you were talking about before we watched it. It feels like the type of trailer you'd see before a movie when you rented a VHS.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd rent a movie, you'd put it in, and there'd be a few trailers before the movie. And they had a very particular feel. And that Halloween 6 trailer very much feels like the vibe of the VHS days.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do wonder if the approach to cutting trailers has changed at all, depending on the media format that it's going to be seen on, besides in a theater.
Well, now I think it's all 100% in a contemporary sense geared towards the internet. It's geared towards YouTube. It's geared towards people are going to... I would say the vast majority of people that watch trailers now are seeing them on their phones. And like you were saying, I wonder if that changes the kind of...
especially in the past, where people had less ability to move past what they were going to have to watch before a movie. And I wonder if switching to VHS or DVD or then Blu-ray, I wonder if there was any thought to the process of how long a trailer could be. Can it be longer on a VHS when someone's going to be at home? And you know what I mean? And you can't just hit a skip button.
If they want to, they could fast forward.
Can we add an extra 10 or 20 seconds to our trailers and get away with it?
It's an interesting thought.
I don't know. Interesting.
I know that in that era of the late 80s up to the mid 90s, when we had the VCRs in our homes, I know, now I collected Fangoria and Gorezone and Splatterhouse magazine. I collected all those religiously. But the way that I would find out about movies that were coming out was always from movies I rented.
Yeah.
And so I know that those trailers in front of movies on VHS were extremely important, because I know that's how a lot of people would get excited for something. And also in that period of time, you have this era beginning where some movies would go directly to the video store,
right,
which was like a brand new thing at that time.
Yeah.
And even in the Halloween franchise, and it might have been around this time.
I was just going to say, wait, did
I
6?
think that the possibility that 6, I think in the lore, and I could be wrong, but I almost believe that it was part 6 that they almost decided to go straight to video.
Yeah, I think they were close.
Because I think that's where Daniel Farrens was involved, and there was somebody right before Daniel Farrens who may have written a script that was intended to be straight to video.
Yeah.
To kind of exploit that, the way something now goes straight to streaming.
They probably just knew they didn't have anything strong, but they wanted to get something out there.
Well, I think the other problem with doing that with Halloween 6 would have been Halloween 4 and Halloween 5 were in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
So I think it would have detracted from 4, 5, and 6 feeling like an informal trilogy in the long run, because 6 would have always been looked at like the redheaded stepchild that didn't get a theatrical release.
Yeah.
Having all three of them have a theatrical exhibition continues to lump them together as these cinematic examples of this franchise, which luckily they've all been up through all 13 films, of course. Now, going forward from 2023, as we all know, the Halloween franchise may or may not be, for the short term, continuing in the cinematic world. It might be moving to streaming or television, most likely streaming.
Yeah.
So I wonder how the marketing will change as we go forward.
Is that sort of its own thing now? Is it considered a TV show just because it's not in a theater, even though it could come out as like
I think that's
a series of pieces as long as a movie?
It's a great point, and I think streaming, and I have that in quotes, has become its own word.
Yeah.
It isn't television and it isn't film. It's streaming. It's like when Netflix produces a film for itself, they can still get the biggest stars, the biggest directors, the biggest budgets. But of course, you're going to be watching it in your own home living room or your bedroom or your home theater. So it's not television and it's not a movie.
Yeah.
You're watching it on television and it is a movie, but yet it's streaming. And I tend to think streaming is exactly the term for it.
Yeah.
But I think about that too. It's a very, very interesting
I just mean it doesn't necessarily imply it's lesser than a movie.
No.
The way we used to say, oh, well, they're going to make the Nightmare, the Freddy TV series versus the movies.
I mean,
it's not going to mean it's going to be something as cheesy or as simple as TV,
Perfect example. Earlier you brought up a David Fincher movie, who I just want to add is one of my favorite directors of all time. But you brought up The Social Network. David Fincher is a infamously meticulously cinematic director. And yet, he's moved to Netflix. Look at his most recent film, The Killer, with Michael Fassbender, just came out within the last month. It is a extremely cinematic-looking film, yet it's released directly to Netflix. So it is a film. It does, like, for instance, would qualify for the Oscars. It is, but yet you're watching it on your television. So my hopes for the ultimate transition of the Halloween franchise in the short term to television is that it still maintains that cinematic appeal.
Exactly. Yeah, I think hopefully it doesn't necessarily mean we're losing the movie film aspect of...
No, because I love getting the trailers.
Yeah.
I love all that stuff.
But who knows? They might also definitely approach it like a TV series. Who knows?
You never know. I guess it's all up in the air.
That's what I mean. Just when you say something is now got the rights have been picked up for streaming on whatever network or they don't have the movie rights. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to get a movie.
No, I truly believe we will eventually. I've said it, and I'll put it again for maybe the 5th time in the Haddonfield radio series. I believe that you will see Michael Myers again on the big screen in 2028. And that's when the 50th anniversary comes. And I think that gives just enough time to develop something for streaming that they want to develop now that I don't think will be Michael Myers centric. I personally, that's my guess. I think it'll exist within the mythology, but I don't think it'll be Michael Myers centric.
But hopefully they have learned, or it seems like they've. You have to have them somehow.
I agree.
You got to tie it in somehow.
I just think when they bring it back to the movie screens going to the movie theater, I believe it'll be in 2028, and I believe it will be fully Michael Myers centric.
Sure.
But that's just my prediction.
Well, this whole whatever they're doing on streaming could be a big setup.
That's exactly right.
For a new movie, franchise.
It could be a mythology reset. Yeah. That leads into whatever they do next in movies. Yep. Maybe they'll never do movies again. I mean, we don't know. That's the franchise is in such a unique position right now. And again, if you're a listener in the future, we're in 2023. So that's where our perspective is from. And I think this is a fascinating time to be a Halloween franchise fan because you don't know what's coming.
Imagine if they reboot the whole thing again and they do a TV series that is him young, leading up, going from a seemingly normal young child to the moment he kills his sister, then leads to a series of new movies of him as adult Michael,
I just know that I'll be there for whatever.
Yeah, who knows? They could do all sorts of stuff.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. I actually love watching these old trailers and talking about them and trying to look at them with the eyes of pretending you're in that period.
Yeah, well, we're from a generation, too, I think, where we still have excitement for the idea of a trailer.
Oh, 100%. I love movie trailers.
They were big deals when we were young, and it's not like today where they're just everywhere and you have access
where there's
all
like
the
a new
time.
Trailer every single day.
You had to wait for it. You had to only see it in the theater. Maybe it was on the VHS, and...
Because I remember going to the movie theater in like the late 80s and into the 90s where you would like have your fingers crossed like, please let the Halloween 5 trailer be on this. Please let, I'm going to go see Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Please let it be the Halloween, whatever the next Halloween trailer. Yeah. Oh, please be the new Freddy trailer. Please be the new Jason trailer. And you would be so excited for those trailers. You'd get there early. You want to see those trailers. You'd see like a logo or a movie studio logo come up. This is going to be it. This is the Halloween trailer. So I love movie trailers, so that's why this series is fun.
I still suffer from the when you're trying to get to see a movie, don't miss the trailers.
You've got to get to the trailers.
And half the people I'm always with are like, whatever, we got time. Like, yeah, but the trailers.
What kind of a masochist doesn't care about seeing the trailers? And you know what? That just brings me to a quick thought.
It's the new mindset.
You know what's funny? A quick thought that just popped in my head. In this perspective of now, in the contemporary kids growing up. Well, they know that they can just see it on their phone anytime.
Well, exactly.
They've probably seen it the minute it was released on their phone. Yeah. So they don't have to worry about seeing it in the theater is almost like an afterthought, like a reminder.
It's just
more
a commercial.
than an announcement.
It's just a commercial.
Yeah. It's sort of too bad.
It is. That's what I mean. We are from the generation, I think, that still holds on to there's some excitement behind getting a trailer.
Well, it speaks to that entire way of thinking that the movie theater used to be like a temple, and it was you had to go there to get the juice. Yeah. You had to go there to get the experience.
But now there was a period, and we'll probably get to that maybe in a future episode when we get to sort of the late '90s transitioning, where the internet was just in its infancy. Remember, like Star Wars Episode 1?
Oh my God!
So remember how the internet was a big deal about them releasing certain trailers and teasers just on an online platform, and that was being used as a new tool to get your trailer to fans without them having to be in the theater, and it was very exciting. It was very new.
That trailer of Phantom Menace
is one on your computer.
It really is one of the most iconic trailers of all time because of that.
Right.
It was right at that crux where the internet was taking over for the movie theater and the TV.
Yeah.
And I remember very vividly that the QuickTime we used to watch trailers on.
Right.
When the Phantom Menace trailer it took the entire day.
Because there wasn't YouTube, so I guess you were downloading the file.
You had to get the QuickTime.
Right, yeah, and then you would watch it.
And remember, we were living in Providence at that time together, and I remember, it had to be 1998, 1999, right?
Yeah.
And I remember
99.
the QuickTime was like a 90-second trailer, and I swear to you, it took all day to download.
It probably did. Yeah.
We waited all day watching that little gray line grow.
Yeah.
And then you see the creature coming through the
fog.
Yeah. And remember that excitement?
Oh, it was crazy. And it's weird. We were huddled around a little screen, not great sound.
And I don't even think you could make it full screen.
It was just
this tiny box.
No matter what, it wasn't what it is today. And
on dial-up internet.
But it was that was like another weird magical time also in trailer.
Oh, of course.
In movie marketing history.
Of course.
The infamous Spider-Man trailer with the Twin Towers too.
Oh my God, you're right.
I remember we also watched at one point over my house.
And the helicopter gets caught between the Twin Towers and the web.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
That was big. Again, a movie that used mini movies, little stories as its trailers that had nothing to do with the actual movie, you know.
And mainly probably because the movie probably wasn't even finished or shot, and they just wanted to get that concept out.
And it was a new. Think it was Raimi, right? So, you know, going back to his Evil Dead days, that's sort of always how he.
Yeah, that is
trailers,
how he did it.
Right?
You're absolutely right.
It was never direct. It was never. He was never straightforward about his trailers.
You know, it's funny you bring him up. And we've talked about him in the past in the Trailer Park. Yep. Sam Raimi, you know, I guarantee you had everything to do with the trailers for his films.
Oh, God,
because I know that he was directly involved, if not making them himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were definitely directors. You can go back to Kubrick and Hitchcock.
Absolutely.
There were definitely directors who were hands-on. But I think in the 80s and mainly when you get to this sort of the mainstream mass-marketed movies, who aren't made by the Hitchcocks and whatnot. Like, they were just going through these either distribution companies or these editing associates that they were hiring to put it together.
Yeah, and then you can really see the difference.
It is.
The art, when there's artistry behind anything, it translates to the audience. And somebody making something like a sausage factory and a corporate machine is never going to have the appeal as something where the love and the passion was put into it. And you can always tell. And I would say in the Halloween 4 trailer, I felt that love and that passion. Yeah. The Halloween 5 and 6 trailer, not as much.
6 was I feel like 5 is the one that feels just...
you're right.
Just sort of...
It's a good point.
I don't know, bland. To me, I just keep saying it's bland.
Fair enough.
Not bad, not great. It's just there.
So let's just say a couple quick things before we wrap up. Yep. I just want to say a couple quick things we always say. First of all, it's so important on behalf of both Joe and myself to say this, and we say it every time we get in front of these microphones because we sincerely mean it. If you've taken time out of your busy schedule and your busy life to hang out with us and watch these trailers or watch movies with us on our other series, Haddonfield Radio, we want you to know that means the world to us. We appreciate you and we appreciate that support literally from the bottom of our hearts. And anytime you watch a YouTube video, everyone's always saying, thank you, we love you, thank you. And I'm not disputing whether they mean it or not, but I'm telling you we do. Am I right?
Yeah, I appreciate it so much.
Every comment, every like, every new subscriber, all our old subscribers, everyone who joins us over on our Haddonfield Radio Instagram page, we deeply and sincerely appreciate you. Without you guys being here watching this stuff with us, it wouldn't be fun. There'd be no fun. When we create these videos, our intention is to be, we're not experts. We're not trying to teach you something or tell you, look what we know and you don't. No, we're just fans. We don't know everything. We get things wrong all the time, and you guys are always so great about correcting us and giving us the right information. If we did get something wrong or something we missed or something you can add to this conversation, put it in the comments. We love learning. And we just want it to feel like you're just watching these trailers with friends. And there's so many of you out there that have become friends to us, and I picture every one of you guys in this room with us. I honestly do. So that's all. I just want to say thank you so very, very much. We really do love you guys and really appreciate you guys, and thank you for being here. And also, we're going to be back with a couple things coming up. Of course, next time we'll be back with episode 6 of the Trailer Park, where we will be doing a vintage trailer and a contemporary trailer to be decided.
Yep.
Of course, coming up soon, we're going to be having Haddonfield Radio episode 15, which we will be talking about the history, legacy, and lore, of course, of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. That's coming up next. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to be doing another live stream around the holiday season.
Yeah, very soon we're going to have some ads giving you guys dates and times for that. But we're going to be doing a December Happy Horror Days.
Yeah, Happy Horror Days live stream.
Yeah, and we have a whole bunch of cool things planned for that. But you'll
if you
you'll
don't
get some
know,
ads.
if you don't know, only because it's not on our main video lineup on our YouTube page, if you go under our live tab on our YouTube page, there's 2 videos there. We did a Halloween 45 Years of Terror podcast recap, and just recently we did our very first annual Halloween Spectacular live stream. So you can check out both of those videos too. We talk about a lot of new movies, reviewing them, talk about some movie news, just basically just hang out and talk. So if you want to check that out, it just doesn't show up in our main feed of videos, but it's there, just under the live tab.
And don't forget our Instagram page, which there is a link right here on our YouTube channel page over in the top right, I believe. And
yeah, it's a very lively place, and a lot of great debates and a lot of great comment threads, and it'd be fun if you want to come and join us and jump in. I try to post every single day.
Yeah, it's a way to get a daily dose of Haddonfield Radio.
And once in a while, and we've been doing this really cool thing, if you love the Halloween franchise, the Michael Myers kill list, where we've been doing Michael Myers kills in chronological order. We're all the way almost into 80 of them.
It's crazy, and there's still a lot left.
And we got a long way to go, and I think we're up to 75 or 76 or something like that.
Yeah, they look like sort of like trading cards.
And we do it
style.
like trading cards, and then I do a piece of writing to go with it in the to go along with.
You got to read what goes along with all of these. Christian does an amazing job.
I try
giving
to
a little
try to make it
story
interesting.
for every single one.
Yeah, I put a lot of time trying to make it cool. I don't know if hopefully you guys enjoy it. But if you love the Halloween franchise like we do, if you love Michael Myers like we do, if you love Freddy Krueger like we do, we've got so much coming in the future. And of course, a couple episodes from now in the Trailer Park, we're going to be back with another Halloween franchise episode, where of course we're going to be doing the trailers for Halloween H2O and Halloween Resurrection. So, which I call the death of Laurie Strode duology.
Yeah.
So in that timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
So that'll be fun. But yeah, so anything else you want to add?
No, just thank you guys. We appreciate it. We love you all.
Yeah, we really do. Honestly, I'm going to say it one more time. We really, sincerely love you guys and appreciate you guys. Thank you for hanging out and watching these. We're going to be back soon. We'll have fun then. We love you guys. But yeah, nothing else?
I'm good.
All right. Well, until next time, my name's Christian White.
I'm Joe Francazio.
And have a very happy Halloween.